So you may have noticed over the last few months, from about July 2024 all the way through the end of this year, we have had an acceleration of all of the darkness and all of the shadow side of humanity starting to come out. And you just have to look around the world and you can see it everywhere. You can see how people are reacting to what is happening in the world, and their shadow sides are coming out to the forefront for everyone to see. And you may have felt within yourself as well that a lot of that shadow has started to pop up out of nowhere. And it's much, much easier to recognize it and to address it, especially if you've been on the spiritual path for a while. You'll be able to identify what is going on much faster and release it much faster. Now, there are a lot of questions about why is shadow work so important. So we've all heard that bringing that part of ourselves that we have denied, that we have shoved down, when we bring that into the light, it actually helps us feel more wholeness. But there is a deeper soul level reason. And this is something that people always ask the question of. You can look at so many videos where people go, well, why do we have all of these difficult things that happen in our lives? Why do we choose that we have these challenges and that things don't go right in our lives? What is the point of that? There must be a reason why we wanted to experience this, why we wanted to have these difficult things happen. And yes, we absolutely chose everything that is happening in our life before we even incarnate on this planet. So nothing in your life has been an accident, nothing has gone wrong. This is where we get to see ourselves in a completely different light as the powerful creator of our own experience. Because none of these things that are happening is an accident. We are literally the author of everything that has been created. Now, I know that can be uncomfortable when you're in that suck and when it's awful and hard. But when you get a different perspective on how this works, you actually start to see things in a completely different light. And that is exactly why we chose all these difficult things for ourselves. Imagine this: if you were not an incredibly powerful soul, then you wouldn't want to set up challenges and all these difficulties for yourself to experience. You wouldn't want to suffer through something that you did not have the tools or the knowledge or the skills to be able to navigate. You just wouldn't. So, first of all, you choose these things because you are a powerful creator being that wanted to experience something that you are not. And on that second point, this is the only place where you get to experience that side of yourself where you are something completely different from who you are. We cannot really fathom, we cannot get our heads around the fact that as one, as all that is, we only know love. There is only love at that place. So the only place where we can experience something different is here. And the more powerful the soul, the more powerful our experience is going to be. We're going to push the boat out and give ourselves as many things that we can experience as possible. Now, also, if you consider that starting from all that is, there is only oneness and only love. For us to get to this point where we can experience as much pain and suffering as possible, it means that we need to be as far away from that source as possible. And then the point that we decide we want to return to source, it's like pulling a rubber band, and you pull it as far as it can go and as slow as it can go and as painful as it can be. And then when you release that, the release is such a good feeling. And that's exactly where we are right now. We're in that place where we're letting go of the band, and our return back to where we're meant to be is so fast and so rewarding. Because imagine getting so far away from who you are and then suddenly remembering, yes, this is actually who I am. The contrast is so great, and the relief and the empowerment that comes with that is immense. So, what are some of the things that we choose for ourselves in order to get to that point? Because we're now in that turning point where humanity is done with the divide, the separation from source, and we're now turning back to remembering who we are. So, what are the things that people tend to choose for themselves to have that awakening experience? Because we tend to have those awakening experiences through those really difficult things that happen in our life. If you think about it, if your life is going pretty well and there's nothing really wrong, there is no real incentive for us to start to look deeper. There is no real drive for us to ask questions that can be very uncomfortable. Because remember, if we've built this entire false identity around us, the process of waking up is about shedding all of those false identities, those false ideas about who we are. That's where that shift can be really uncomfortable. So we don't tend to do that shift until something forces us to do that. And those are the difficult things that happen in our life. So there are three, maybe four, depending on the first one, can be split into two difficult things that we choose in our lives for us to have that experience where we go, we need to remember ourselves in a different way. This isn't working for me anymore. The first thing is where we have really difficult experiences in our life. So that can be anything from abuse, it can be from something going wrong in a relationship, it can be something that goes very wrong in our lives, for example, our careers. And this is where the second category comes in. It can be around things that happen on a money front. So any level of poverty or challenge around money. Now, this first category is absolutely about the depths of who you are at a very individual level. And this is where we build up all these false stories and false narratives around who we are, based on our conditioning, based on everything that happens in our life. And we say that because everything happened in our lives, that is now who we are. Where actually it's the other way around. It's our beliefs that create our reality. And it just reinforces those beliefs over and over and over again. Now, the reason we chose this is because of past life choices we've made. We are holding on to these ideas because something happened to us in a past life that we held onto as being true. We cannot, however, let go of these past life beliefs when we're not here on earth. We have to be here incarnated. So we often will come in with these challenges set up for ourselves so that we can go, okay, I'm done with this now. I'm ready to let it go. The problem is we tend to hold on to everything that happens to us. We tend to like cling on to it as an identity instead of going, oh, these things have happened to me. Maybe it's not who I am, and maybe I need to change and think about myself in a different way so that different things can happen to me. And that's why we will often see people who will be in therapy for decades and nothing will ever change because they're just reinforcing the belief of themselves. And this is where we will hold on to titles like, I have X disease. I am a survivor of whatever abuse. I am. We hold on to those things as if they are who we are, our identity. So that's the first reason, is to help us to identify that those things that have happened to us in our life isn't actually who we are, and to get us to start looking for something deeper, for something that is actually true. And oftentimes you'll find that people who've never really felt successful, never really felt included, they've never really felt like they belong somewhere. It's because they're holding on to this false identity and they're trying to create their life around this false identity. Instead of finding the true identity and then their life will start to build around that true identity. So it's always the other way around from what we expect. Now, the second reason why we might choose something difficult in our lives is to help the people around us. Oftentimes, very powerful souls will come here as teachers for the people that they love the most. And imagine the amount of love it takes for somebody to come into our lives and play an extremely difficult role for us. This can be, again, in the form of an abuser in our lives. It can also be in the form of somebody who is very ill, or perhaps who doesn't have a particularly long time with us. Oftentimes, this will be children with special needs. So they will require something extra from their parents. And often those times, those are incredibly high vibrational souls who come here to not fit into the status quo, to not follow the rules. They already know that they live outside of the rules of society, and they're here to help other people discover that in themselves. They often help people to discover what unconditional love truly looks like. In fact, I have an experience of walking past an autistic boy recently, and as I walked past him and he just looked up into my face, I had this incredible buzz of electricity that hit me like a bolt of lightning. His vibration was so incredibly high that it literally zapped me. Those people are not to be pitied. They're not to be seen as less than. They're incredibly high vibrational beings who have come here to do a service to the people around them. And the third thing that we can build into our life plan is the death of a loved one. Oftentimes, the death of a loved one can fundamentally change the trajectory of our lives. It can shift things in such a fundamental way that we not only have to think about ourselves differently, but we also have to think about our place and our role in the world differently. Oftentimes, when we are faced with our mortality, we start to think about why we are here, our purpose, what we are here to do, and fundamentally understanding that there is more for us available than what we have been living up until this point that we didn't even realize. So that is a point where we can start looking around the world and we can ask the deeper question, why am I here? If we're only here for a short time, I'm going to make the most of this time here. I'm going to make a difference in the world. And it doesn't have to be by becoming an influencer or a leader or even on social media. But how do I make a difference in my life for the people around me? How do I get the most out of my day? What do I really want to do? Do I want to go travel the world? Or do I want to spend time with my family? What is it that's really important to me? And how do I live every day to the fullest? These are the reasons why we write in challenges into our lives. And we may think that the challenges that we have are fairly minor and it's terrible that there may be starving children in Africa. It doesn't matter what the lesson is. The lesson was perfectly crafted by you, for the highest good of your evolution. It depends on where you're at and what you wanted to experience. There are no victims in this world. Everybody is a powerful creator. They created those situations. They knew exactly what they were walking into. And it's there for a reason. The question for us is, what do we do with that? How do we use it? We have to look at what the lesson was in all of the difficult things that we have gone through. There is often a hidden gift that is available for us in every single challenge that we've gone through. The question is, are you willing to start looking for that gift? For me personally, in everything that I have gone through, my biggest gift that I have discovered and learned, and it is now one of my most precious things, is the gift of compassion. I will never, ever judge another person based on what they are going through. I will always treat everybody's challenges with compassion. And that has been very hard fought for and won. And it, as I said, is my most precious gift that I have gotten through everything that I've experienced. Now, I've also experienced empowerment and joy. So those are all gifts that I have taken through all of the difficult experiences that I've gone through, and there've been plenty. But it's about what you make of them. It's about whether you're willing to see the other side of the story, the truth about who you are. And it's whether you're willing to unwrap that gift for yourself.